If you scroll past this message without listening carefully, you may miss the very warning that could save your destiny. My child, pause. Breathe. This is not by accident. You did not land here randomly. I am speaking to you now because something around you has been disguising itself as comfort while quietly draining your calling. If you ignore this voice, you may walk deeper into confusion thinking it is loyalty. Listen closely. There is a friendship in your life that did not come from me. I know you call them friend. I know you laugh together. I know you share secrets. But I see what you do not see. I see how your spirit feels heavy after you leave them. I see how your focus weakens when they speak. I see how your standards slowly shift to accommodate their chaos. That friendship was not sent to sharpen you. It was assigned to distract you. Not every connection is a blessing. Some are lessons. Some are tests. And some are traps wrapped in familiarity. The enemy rarely attacks you with obvious darkness. He studies your weaknesses. He watches your loneliness. He observes your desire to belong. Then he sends someone who understands you just enough to gain your trust, but not enough to protect your purpose. That is how assignments from hell operate. They do not announce themselves. They blend in. You must understand something deeply. Relationships shape direction. Whoever has your ear influences your decisions. Whoever influences your decisions influences your destiny. When someone constantly feeds your fear instead of your faith, that is not friendship. When someone normalizes your compromise instead of correcting you in love, that is not loyalty. When someone subtly celebrates your disobedience because it keeps you comfortable, that is not support. That is sabotage. My child, you cannot grow spiritually while staying emotionally attached to what pulls you backward. Light and darkness cannot move in agreement. If someone consistently pulls you toward bitterness, gossip, lust, pride, or rebellion, that influence is not neutral. It is strategic. Some of you listening know exactly who I am talking about. You felt uneasy the first time they encouraged you to bend your standards. You felt conviction when your conversations shifted from growth to negativity. You sensed the warning in your spirit, but you silenced it because you did not want to lose them. You feared being alone more than you feared losing direction. But hear me clearly, I would rather you walk alone with peace than walk crowded with confusion. The enemy assigns people to delay you, not destroy you immediately. Delay you. Because delay feels harmless. Delay feels like, we are just having fun. Delay feels like, it's not that serious. But small compromises create large consequences. What begins as laughter can end in regret. What begins as sympathy can end in dependency. What begins as harmless advice can end in spiritual numbness. A true friend pushes you closer to truth even when it is uncomfortable. A true friend celebrates your discipline. A true friend protects your reputation when you are not present. A true friend does not compete with your growth or mock your convictions. They do not feel threatened when you mature. They cheer when you elevate. But an assignment from hell will subtly resent your progress. They will joke about your boundaries. They will call your obedience too much. They will tempt you to lower yourself so they can remain comfortable. And because they smile while doing it, you will struggle to call it what it is. Discernment is not suspicion. Discernment is spiritual intelligence. It is the ability to recognize patterns. If every time you spend hours with someone you leave feeling drained, anxious, or spiritually distant, that pattern is speaking. If your prayer life weakens when they are most present, that pattern is speaking. If your vision becomes blurry around them, that pattern is speaking. My child, I did not create you to be easily influenced. I created you to influence. There is a difference between loving people and allowing them access to your inner circle. You can care about someone without giving them control over your direction. You can forgive someone without restoring the same level of access. Not every apology requires full restoration of closeness. You must guard your heart. Your heart is the control center of your life. What enters it consistently will eventually shape your identity. If a friendship feeds insecurity, comparison, jealousy, or compromise, it is planting seeds. Seeds always grow. The question is, what are they growing in you? Sometimes you pray for elevation while holding on to relationships that are designed for your old season. You ask me to take you higher, but you refuse to release what anchors you to lower thinking. I will not force you to let go. But understand that promotion requires separation. It may hurt. It may feel like betrayal. It may feel like you are abandoning someone. But there is a difference between helping someone grow and allowing them to drown you. You are not responsible for fixing everyone. You are responsible for obeying me. Listen carefully to this truth. Where your spirit is weakened, your future is threatened. Turn that into knowledge. Evaluate your relationships not by history but by impact. Ask yourself honestly, does this person strengthen my faith or weaken it? Do they inspire discipline or encourage distraction? Do they respect my boundaries or test them? If the answer reveals discomfort, do not ignore it. I know it is difficult in a world that values constant connection. I know many of you fear isolation. But isolation with me is preparation, not punishment. I sometimes remove people to protect you from what they cannot see in themselves. You call it loss. I call it rescue. Some friendships begin pure but shift over time. And when they shift away from truth, you must be brave enough to adjust your position. You cannot carry everyone into every season. Now I want to speak directly to your heart. You who are listening from your room late at night. You who feel conflicted because you sense something is wrong but you do not want drama. You who are tired of feeling guilty for outgrowing people. Hear me clearly, growth is not betrayal. I see your loyalty. I see how deeply you love. I see how you try to be understanding. But you must love yourself enough to protect your peace. You must respect your calling enough to protect your focus. You are not too sensitive. You are not overthinking. That uneasiness you feel is conviction, not paranoia. I did not design you to shrink to keep others comfortable. I did not design you to compromise to maintain acceptance. I did not design you to dim your light so someone else can avoid confronting their darkness. You are called to stand firm. If a friendship mocks your desire to live right, it is not aligned with your future. If someone pressures you to hide your faith or water down your values, they are not assigned to your destiny. You do not need to argue. You do not need to attack. Sometimes separation can be quiet. Sometimes distance is the loudest boundary. You may feel alone for a moment, but I am closer than the friend you fear losing. I will send connections that honor your convictions. I will surround you with voices that strengthen you. I will replace confusion with clarity. Trust me when I remove someone. Trust me when exposure happens. Trust me when distance feels necessary. I see what you cannot see. I know what you do not know. And I love you too much to let an assignment from hell sit comfortably in your inner circle. Release them with peace. Pray for them from a distance. But protect your destiny. You are not losing a friend. You are regaining your focus. And as you choose alignment over attachment, watch how your clarity returns. Watch how your confidence strengthens. Watch how your peace multiplies. I am guiding you. I am guarding you. And I am growing you. Listen, reflect, and be brave enough to choose purpose over pressure. You are still here listening. That tells me something about your spirit. It tells me you are ready for truth even if it stretches you. Let me take you deeper. Many of you have mistaken familiarity for assignment. Just because someone has been in your life for years does not mean they are meant for your future. Time does not equal purpose. History does not equal destiny. A connection can begin in one season and expire in another. When seasons change, grace shifts. And when grace shifts, what once felt easy begins to feel heavy. Pay attention to heaviness. Heaviness is often a signal. When conversations that used to feel light now feel draining, when you leave interactions feeling smaller instead of stronger, when you notice your joy shrinking around someone, your spirit is alerting you. I speak through peace. When peace disappears repeatedly, something is misaligned. Assignments from hell often operate through emotional manipulation. They make you feel responsible for their happiness. They make you feel guilty for growing. They subtly remind you of everything you have shared so you will feel trapped by loyalty. But love that traps you is not love. It is control. You are not called to be controlled. Some of you are connected to people who celebrate your downfall in secret. They smile publicly but compete privately. They ask questions not to understand you but to measure themselves against you. They want access to your plans not to support them but to compare them. And comparison breeds quiet resentment. Resentment is fertile ground for sabotage. The enemy understands proximity. He knows that a stranger's voice carries little weight. But a friend's voice? That voice can shape your thinking. That voice can plant doubt. That voice can redefine what is acceptable. So he assigns influence. Influence is powerful. It works slowly. It normalizes compromise. It makes sin look harmless. It makes discipline look extreme. It makes obedience look outdated. And before you realize it, you are defending behaviors you once prayed to be delivered from. That is how assignments from hell operate. They do not push you off a cliff. They guide you step by step toward the edge. My child, I did not create you to live on the edge of compromise. I created you to walk in clarity. Let me give you wisdom. Evaluate fruit, not feelings. Feelings fluctuate. Fruit reveals truth. Does this friendship produce growth, accountability, honesty, and peace? Or does it produce anxiety, gossip, temptation, distraction, and confusion? Fruit cannot lie. Some of you keep asking me for confirmation while I have already shown you patterns. You want a dramatic sign. You want something obvious. But wisdom often comes quietly. It is the repeated discomfort. It is the consistent pattern. It is the inner check that does not go away. Stop ignoring what I have already revealed. You are not too spiritual. You are not judging. You are discerning. There is a difference between struggling together and sinking together. Two people can be imperfect and still push each other upward. But if both of you are comfortable staying stuck, that is agreement with stagnation. And stagnation is dangerous for someone called to grow. Growth requires pruning. Pruning is uncomfortable. When I remove something from your life, it can feel like loss. But pruning is not punishment. It is preparation for greater fruit. If I cut off a branch, it is because I see what it will cost you later if it remains. Some friendships feel safe because they keep you in your old identity. They remind you of who you used to be. They keep you operating at a level that requires no change. But I am calling you higher. Higher thinking. Higher discipline. Higher standards. And not everyone will celebrate that elevation. Some will accuse you of changing. But change in the right direction is maturity. Hear this clearly. Anything that requires you to betray your convictions to maintain connection is not sent to bless you. Turn that into knowledge. Let it guide your decisions. If staying close requires you to silence your conscience, that closeness is costing too much. Some of you have friendships built on trauma bonding. You connected through pain. You connected through rebellion. You connected through shared wounds. And while empathy brought you together, healing will separate you. Because once you begin healing, you can no longer agree with the mindset that kept you broken. Healing changes compatibility. And that is not cruelty. That is transformation. Do not confuse compassion with obligation. You can care about someone deeply and still recognize they cannot walk into your next season with you. Sometimes your elevation will expose insecurities in others. And instead of celebrating you, they will subtly try to pull you back to what is familiar. Familiar is comfortable. But comfortable is not always healthy. I want you to ask yourself something honestly. Who do I become around this person? Do you become disciplined or distracted? Faithful or careless? Grateful or critical? Focused or impulsive? Your environment shapes your behavior more than you realize. The enemy studies your calling. He knows the areas where you are strong. So he targets the areas where you are vulnerable. If you struggle with loneliness, he sends someone who fills that emotional gap but drains your spiritual strength. If you struggle with validation, he sends someone who flatters you but feeds your ego. If you struggle with boundaries, He sends someone who constantly tests them. It is strategic. You must become spiritually alert. Spiritual maturity is not about how loudly you speak about faith. It is about how wisely you choose your influences. Not everyone deserves access to your private struggles. Not everyone deserves your trust. Trust is earned through consistency, not chemistry. Chemistry is instant. Character is proven. You are not called to save everyone. You are called to be faithful. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let someone face the consequences of their own choices. If your presence continually shields them from accountability, you are enabling, not helping. I know this is challenging, especially in a culture that values constant inclusion. But understand this, boundaries are not walls of hatred. They are gates of wisdom. When you choose boundaries, you are not rejecting people. You are protecting purpose. Now let me speak gently to the part of you that feels guilty. You feel bad even thinking about creating distance. You worry about being misunderstood. You fear being labeled arrogant or distant. But obedience sometimes looks like separation. And separation is not cruelty when it is guided by conviction. If someone truly loves you, they will respect your growth. They may not understand it immediately, but they will not attack it. If someone reacts with anger, mockery, or manipulation when you create healthy space, that reaction reveals what the connection was built on. My child, you deserve relationships that breathe life into you. You deserve conversations that challenge you to become better. You deserve friendships where prayer is normal, honesty is welcomed, and correction is safe. Stop settling for less because you fear starting over. I am capable of sending divine connections. I am capable of aligning you with people who sharpen your wisdom, protect your reputation, and celebrate your obedience. But you must create space. Space invites replacement. As long as your hands are tightly holding on to what I am asking you to release, you cannot receive what I am preparing to give. Trust my timing. Trust my pruning. Trust my protection. You are not crazy for sensing misalignment. You are not dramatic for feeling drained. You are not disloyal for outgrowing dysfunction. You are maturing. And maturity will cost you some connections. But what you gain in peace, clarity, and purpose will far outweigh what you lose in temporary comfort. I am with you as you navigate this. I see your heart. I see your struggle. And I am guiding you step by step. Stay with me. Do not rush this conviction away. Do not silence this stirring in your spirit. What I am revealing to you is not meant to create fear but clarity. Clarity protects you. Some of you have been asking me why certain areas of your life feel stuck. You pray. You fast. You ask for breakthrough. Yet something feels blocked. Let me show you something deeper. Sometimes the blockage is not a spiritual attack from outside. It is an influence you keep entertaining inside your circle. You cannot constantly sit in conversations filled with doubt and expect your faith to grow strong. You cannot regularly absorb negativity and expect to live in peace. What you consume relationally shapes your internal atmosphere. Atmosphere matters. If you place a healthy seed in toxic soil, the seed struggles. You are that seed. I planted purpose inside of you. I planted calling inside of you. I planted discipline and vision inside of you. But if your relational environment is toxic, that purpose feels suffocated. Assignments from hell are not always loud sinners. Sometimes they are subtle compromisers. They are the friend who says, "You're doing too much," when you try to live right. They are the friend who laughs at your boundaries. They are the friend who invites you into situations you already prayed to avoid. It starts small. A suggestion. A joke. A late-night conversation. A subtle comparison. A slight nudge toward what you once left behind. And because it does not look extreme, you allow it. But compromise rarely announces its consequences in advance. You must learn to measure relationships by direction. Where is this connection taking you? Closer to discipline or deeper into distraction? Toward clarity or into confusion? Toward growth or into stagnation? Direction determines destination. There are some of you listening who feel constantly pulled backward after making progress. You take one step forward in discipline, and then a conversation pulls you 2 steps back. You commit to focus, and then someone tempts you into old habits. You try to guard your thoughts, but someone feeds your mind with gossip and drama. And slowly your spiritual sensitivity weakens. That is the real danger. When your sensitivity dulls, you begin tolerating what once troubled you. You begin excusing what once convicted you. You begin justifying what once felt wrong. That is not freedom. That is drift. Drift happens gradually. No one wakes up planning to abandon purpose. It happens through repeated small agreements with what weakens you. And often those agreements are influenced by someone you trust. My child, you must become protective of your inner peace. Peace is not fragile, but it is valuable. And not everyone deserves access to it. Some friendships survive because they are built on shared dysfunction. When you decide to change, the connection feels strained. Why? Because the foundation is shifting. If a relationship cannot survive your healing, it was dependent on your brokenness. Let that sink in. If someone only feels close to you when you are struggling, when you are complaining, when you are acting impulsively, that connection feeds on instability. And when you begin to stabilize, they feel distance. That distance is not rejection. It is transformation. I want you to understand this deeply. You cannot heal in environments that require you to stay wounded. Turn that into wisdom. If remaining connected requires you to suppress your growth, that environment is not safe for your destiny. There are some of you who feel emotionally exhausted. You feel like you are always giving, always understanding, always forgiving, always accommodating, yet rarely receiving encouragement, accountability, or genuine support in return. That imbalance is revealing something. Friendship should not feel like a constant rescue mission. You are not called to be someone's emotional crutch forever. Compassion does not mean self-sacrifice without wisdom. And hear me carefully. When you consistently ignore your own convictions to keep someone comfortable, you are placing their approval above my guidance. I am jealous for your focus. Not because I want to control you, but because I see your future clearly. I see the doors ahead. I see the influence you are capable of carrying. I see the stability you are meant to build. And I also see what can derail it. Sometimes the greatest warfare in your life is relational. You expect the enemy to attack through tragedy or crisis. But many times he attacks through influence, through normalized compromise, through laughter that hides erosion, through comfort that delays calling. And some of you feel torn because the person is not all bad. They have good qualities. They have been there for you before. You have history. Yes, that is why it is difficult. Assignments from hell are effective because they are mixed with good moments. But listen carefully. A little poison in clean water still contaminates the whole cup. It does not have to be constant negativity to be dangerous. It only needs to be consistent enough to shift you gradually. You must stop evaluating relationships only by loyalty. Evaluate them by alignment. Are your values aligned? Is your direction aligned? Is your desire for growth aligned? If you are moving toward discipline and they are comfortable in disorder, tension will grow. And instead of pulling them upward, they may pull you downward if you are not careful. You are not responsible for dragging someone into maturity. You can inspire. You can encourage. But you cannot force transformation. And here is something you must understand. Some people are assigned to test your boundaries. Not to stay in your life permanently, but to reveal whether you have matured enough to protect your standards. Every test exposes something. If you repeatedly allow disrespect, you reveal weak boundaries. If you repeatedly excuse compromise, you reveal fear of confrontation. If you repeatedly silence conviction to avoid conflict, you reveal attachment to comfort. But growth changes that. Growth says, I love you, but I will not participate in this. Growth says, I care about you, but I cannot follow you there. Growth says, I forgive you, but I will not give you the same access. That is not pride. That is wisdom. Some of you are in a season where I am separating you quietly. Conversations are becoming less frequent. Invitations are becoming less appealing. Interests are shifting. Do not force what is naturally fading. When grace lifts, do not chase it. Trust that I am rearranging your environment. I am aligning you with voices that will sharpen you. I am removing distractions that blur your focus. I am teaching you to stand alone if necessary. Because if you cannot stand firm without constant approval, your foundation is not strong yet. Let me ask you something personal. Are you afraid of being misunderstood? Are you afraid they will talk about you? Are you afraid of being labeled distant or changed? Let them misunderstand. Your peace is more valuable than their opinion. You cannot build a stable future while constantly explaining your growth to those who benefit from your immaturity. Some of you are one decision away from breakthrough. And that decision is not about a job or a move. It is about who has access to your daily thoughts. Protect your mornings. Protect your conversations. Protect your emotional energy. The right connections will not demand that you shrink. They will challenge you. They will hold you accountable. They will celebrate your discipline. They will remind you of truth when you feel weak. That is alignment. Stop confusing intensity with destiny. Just because a friendship feels strong emotionally does not mean it is spiritually healthy. Emotion can bond you to what is not meant for you. Wisdom will free you from what emotion tries to keep. My child, I am not asking you to become cold. I'm asking you to become discerning. Love people. Pray for people. Show kindness. But guard your inner circle carefully. Access is sacred. And not everyone who starts with you will finish with you. That is not failure. That is refinement. You are being refined. And refinement always involves separation. Stay with me. Stay attentive. Do not let distractions steal what is being planted in you right now. There are layers to this that you have not yet considered. Some friendships were permitted in your life not because they were meant to stay, but because they were meant to reveal you to yourself. They exposed your need for validation. They exposed your fear of rejection. They exposed your struggle with boundaries. And while you thought the main issue was them, I was also strengthening you. Every unhealthy attachment reveals an area that still needs healing. If you fear letting go, ask yourself why. Is it love? Or is it fear of emptiness? Is it loyalty? Or is it insecurity? Many remain in draining friendships not because they are called to, but because they are afraid to sit alone with their own thoughts. Silence can feel uncomfortable when you are used to noise. But in silence, I speak clearly. When you remove constant external voices, you begin to hear your own convictions again. You begin to feel peace returning. You begin to recognize how much tension you had normalized. Some of you have normalized stress in friendship. You think it is normal to constantly argue, constantly prove yourself, constantly explain your choices, constantly defend your standards. That is not peace. That is pressure. And pressure over time changes you. You start becoming defensive. You start lowering expectations. You start tolerating disrespect. You start laughing at things that wound you. All because you do not want to lose connection. But hear me clearly, connection that costs you your integrity is too expensive. There are some of you who are spiritually sensitive. You feel shifts quickly. You sense when something is off. But because you have been told you are too deep or too intense, you silence that sensitivity. Do not silence the very gift that protects you. Discernment is protection. It is not paranoia. It is not judgment. It is awareness guided by peace and conviction. Let me explain something deeper about assignments from hell. They often come at pivotal moments. Right before promotion. right before breakthrough, right before clarity. Because if your direction solidifies, you will move beyond their influence. So distraction intensifies. You may notice that when you commit to growth, suddenly certain friends become more demanding. They want more time, more access, more attention. It is not always conscious, but it is reactive. Growth exposes imbalance. If your growth threatens the dynamic will resist. And this is where you must be strong. You cannot negotiate your standards to preserve comfort. You cannot water down your discipline to maintain familiarity. If you do, you will remain stuck in cycles. Cycles are comfortable prisons. The enemy does not always want to destroy you instantly. Sometimes he only wants to keep you cycling. Same drama, same conversations, same temptations, same regrets, year after year. But you are called to progression. Progression requires courage. Courage to say no. Courage to create distance. Courage to disappoint people who benefited from your weakness. Some of you have been the strong one in the friendship, the responsible one, the patient one, the one who always listens, but who listens to you, who strengthens you, who challenges you. If the relationship is one-sided in growth, it cannot sustain your elevation. Let me say something plainly, you cannot carry someone who refuses to walk. You will exhaust yourself trying, and exhaustion makes you vulnerable. When you are emotionally drained, your decision-making weakens. When your decision-making weakens, compromise becomes easier. That is strategic. Now consider this. Have you noticed how some friendships thrive when you are struggling, but become distant when you are succeeding? When you are confused, they are close. When you are focused, they feel threatened. When you are unsure, they feel needed. But when you are confident, they feel uncomfortable. That discomfort reveals hidden imbalance. True friends celebrate your clarity. They do not feel displaced by it. You must stop trying to shrink your light to maintain balance with someone who refuses to grow. I did not design you to manage other people's insecurities. If your growth exposes insecurity, that is their responsibility to address, not yours to accommodate. Listen to this carefully. Who you tolerate will shape what you become. Turn that into knowledge. If you tolerate constant negativity, you will slowly become negative. If you tolerate compromise, you will slowly compromise. If you tolerate disrespect, you will slowly lower your standards. Tolerance is powerful. You become what you consistently allow. This is why guarding your circle is not arrogance. It is stewardship. You are stewarding your future, your energy, your focus, your emotional health. Some of you are entering a season where you must be more selective. Not isolated. Selective. Selective about conversations. Selective about invitations. Selective about access. Selective about vulnerability. You do not owe everyone full access to your inner life. There are friendships that began because you were in the same environment, same class, same job, same season of struggle. But seasons change, environments shift, and compatibility sometimes fades. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is simply quiet misalignment. And forcing alignment where it no longer exists only creates frustration. You will know when grace has lifted from a connection. It will feel forced. Conversations will feel rehearsed. Laughter will feel strained. Peace will feel absent. Do not fight what I am dissolving. You are not losing community. You are transitioning. And transition feels lonely before it feels aligned. Some of you fear that if you let go, no one else will come. That this is the best you will find. That this is as good as it gets. That fear is a lie. I am not limited in what I can send into your life. I can bring people who understand your discipline, who respect your standards, who challenge you intellectually and spiritually, who are secure enough to celebrate you without competing. But you must create space. Holding on to unhealthy familiarity blocks divine alignment. Let me speak directly to your heart again. You are not difficult for wanting peace. You are not judgmental for wanting growth. You are not selfish for wanting mutual effort. You are not wrong for expecting respect. Raise your standards without apology. Some friendships were assignments from hell not because the person was evil, but because the influence was misaligned with your calling. And influence, not intention, determines impact. Impact matters more than intention. They may not intend to harm you. But if the result is confusion, compromise, and stagnation, the outcome is still damaging. Wisdom evaluates outcomes. You are entering a season where clarity will cost you comfort. But comfort has already been costing you growth. Choose growth. Choose peace. Choose alignment. Even if it means walking through temporary loneliness. Loneliness with purpose is better than company with confusion. I am strengthening you. I am sharpening your discernment. I am teaching you how to protect what I have placed inside you. You are not meant to carry every relationship forward. You are meant to carry purpose forward. And sometimes, that means releasing what once felt permanent. Stay with me. Do not grow tired of listening. This is the kind of truth that protects years of your life. Some of you are wondering, how did I not see it sooner? You feel embarrassed. You feel disappointed in yourself. You replay conversations and think about the red flags you ignored. But do not drown in regret. Awareness is growth. And growth means you are no longer who you were when you tolerated it. Assignments from hell often begin with flattery. They admire you intensely. They attach quickly. They overshare early. They create a fast sense of intimacy. And because you feel seen, you open up. But quick attachment without tested character is dangerous. Depth takes time. Trust takes consistency. And consistency cannot be proven in a few emotional conversations. Be careful of connections that escalate faster than wisdom can evaluate. The enemy understands something about you. You crave understanding. You crave to be known. And when someone appears to understand you deeply, it feels rare. But true understanding is not proven by words alone. It is proven by alignment over time. Some of you are in friendships where boundaries are constantly tested. You say no and they push. You create space and they question. You express discomfort and they dismiss it. Over time you begin to doubt yourself. That doubt is not accidental. If someone can get you to distrust your own discernment, they gain control over your decisions. And control disguised as closeness is still control. You were not created to be emotionally manipulated. There are subtle signs you must no longer ignore. If you feel pressure to respond immediately or risk conflict. If you feel anxious when you do not give them constant attention. If you feel guilt when you prioritize your growth. If you feel drained after every deep conversation. Pay attention. Your nervous system often recognizes what your mind tries to excuse. Peace is your compass. When peace repeatedly disappears around someone, do not call it coincidence. Some of you have mistaken chaos for passion. Loud friendship is not deep friendship. Intensity is not intimacy. Drama is not depth. Real depth is steady. Real loyalty is calm. Real alignment feels peaceful. Assignments from hell thrive on emotional extremes. High highs. Low lows. Intense bonding. Intense conflict. Apologies. Reconnection. Repeat. That cycle keeps you emotionally attached. But healthy connection does not exhaust you. It strengthens you. You must also examine this. Are you in that friendship because you feel needed? Some of you stay because being needed gives you identity. You feel important when someone depends on you heavily. But being needed is not the same as being valued. If someone only keeps you close because you solve their problems, you are not a friend. You are a utility. You deserve to be valued, not just used. And here is another layer. Sometimes the assignment is mutual. You may also be in their life as a test. Your obedience to distance may be the boundary that forces them to grow. Do not assume separation only benefits you. Obedience always carries ripple effects. But your responsibility is your obedience, not their reaction. You cannot control how someone responds to your growth. Some will mature. Some will resent. Some will disappear. Let them choose. You choose alignment. Listen carefully. The longer you ignore misalignment, the more expensive it becomes. Turn that into wisdom. Every month you remain in draining influence costs you focus. Every year costs you opportunity. Every cycle costs you emotional energy you could have invested in building your future. Time is precious. Some of you have wasted years trying to fix what was never assigned to you to carry. You kept thinking, if I just try harder, if I just explain better, if I just sacrifice more. But sacrifice without wisdom becomes self-sabotage. There is a difference between loving someone through struggle and being pulled into their dysfunction. And you know the difference deep down. Your spirit has been restless. That restlessness is not random. It is warning. It is guidance. You cannot pray for elevation while clinging to relationships rooted in your old identity. Your old identity had certain tolerances. Your new identity has new standards. Growth demands new boundaries. Some friendships feel difficult to release because they are tied to memories. Shared laughter. Shared tears. Shared milestones. But memories are not mandates. Nostalgia is not assignment. You can appreciate what was without forcing it to continue. There is also something else you must consider. Influence flows both ways. If you are constantly defending your discipline in a friendship, you are slowly becoming the minority voice in your own circle. And minority influence over time weakens. The people closest to you should make obedience easier, not harder. If you have to constantly explain why you do not want to participate in certain behaviors, that friction will eventually wear you down. Weariness leads to compromise. Compromise leads to regret. And regret is heavy. You are not meant to live in constant internal conflict. You are meant to live in conviction and peace. Let me speak to those of you who fear confrontation. You think distance must be dramatic. It does not. Sometimes it is gradual. You respond less. You initiate less. You share less. You invest more in what builds you. You allow the dynamic to shift naturally. Not every separation requires explanation. Sometimes silence is enough. But do not ghost out of bitterness. Release with clarity and prayer. Bitterness ties you emotionally even after distance. Forgiveness frees you internally. Forgive. Release. Adjust access. That is maturity. Some of you are in friendships where you are afraid to shine because it will create tension. You minimize your success. You downplay your growth. You hide your discipline. That is not healthy alignment. You should not have to dim your progress to keep peace. Peace that requires you to shrink is not real peace. And hear this clearly. You are entering a season where the quality of your relationships will determine the speed of your growth. Alignment accelerates. Misalignment delays. You have already experienced delay. Enough delay. It is time for precision in your circle. Not perfection. Precision. Choose people who respect your time. Choose people who honor your boundaries. Choose people who speak truth even when it is uncomfortable. Choose people who are secure enough not to compete. And if those people are few, that is fine. Quality over quantity. Depth over noise. Alignment over history. You are not alone in this transition. I am walking you through it carefully because what is ahead requires stability. Your future cannot be built on unstable influence. Let them misunderstand if they must. Let them talk if they choose. Let them assume. But do not betray your conviction to protect your image. Your image does not protect you. Wisdom does. Stay firm. Stay calm. Stay discerning. You are being elevated beyond cycles that once felt normal. And elevation always reveals who can rise with you and who cannot. I am strengthening your backbone. I am sharpening your perception. I'm teaching you how to love without losing yourself. This is refinement. This is protection. This is preparation. Lean in even closer now. What I am about to say requires honesty. Some of you sensed from the very beginning that something was off, but you overrode it because you did not want to appear too serious. You did not want to appear too spiritual. You wanted to be relatable. You wanted to be easygoing. So you adjusted your standards quietly. Adjustment feels small at first. You laugh at things that once bothered you. You attend places you once avoided. You entertain conversations you once rejected. You silence convictions you once honored. And slowly your internal compass begins to spin. You do not wake up one day completely lost. You drift. And drift often happens through relationships. You must understand this deeply. Whoever normalizes your behavior influences your future. If someone constantly normalizes compromise, you will eventually stop seeing it as compromise. That is how spiritual erosion works. It is quiet. It is gradual. It is disguised as, it's not that deep. But everything is deep when it shapes your character. Character determines capacity. And your capacity is tied to your calling. Some friendships were never meant to carry the weight of your next season. They were seasonal, not eternal. But you tried to force permanence because you feared loss. Loss is not always subtraction. Sometimes it is protection. There are conversations you have had where afterward you felt unsettled. You could not explain it, but something in your chest felt tight. Something in your spirit felt disturbed. You brushed it off, but your spirit was reacting to misalignment. Do not keep ignoring those reactions. Your body often registers stress before your mind does. If you constantly feel tension around someone, that tension is information. You are not required to remain where you feel consistently tense. Peace is not a luxury. It is a necessity for clarity. Some of you are in friendships where subtle competition exists. They celebrate you publicly but compare privately. They ask about your progress not to support but to measure. And when you move ahead, their energy shifts. Energy does not lie. You may not have proof of jealousy, but you feel it. Conversations become colder. Encouragement becomes limited. Excitement becomes forced. That shift is not accidental. Not everyone can handle watching you become who you prayed to be. And that is okay. But do not shrink to make them comfortable. If your success threatens someone, that reveals their insecurity, not your wrongdoing. Listen carefully. If someone only feels secure when you are small, they are not assigned to your expansion. Let that become wisdom in you. Expansion requires supportive structure. If a building grows taller, its foundation must be reinforced. Your friendships are part of your foundation. If they cannot handle weight, cracks will appear. Some of you are emotionally attached to the version of them you hope they will become. But you must evaluate who they are consistently, not who they promise to be. Potential is not proof. Words are not evidence. Patterns are evidence. If the pattern is repeated compromise, repeated disrespect, repeated drama, repeated instability, believe the pattern. Hope without wisdom becomes self-deception. And self-deception delays breakthrough. You cannot keep rewriting reality to preserve attachment. There are also some of you who have been the weaker influence in the friendship. You know deep down that you follow more than you lead. You adjust more than you assert. You bend more than you stand. That imbalance is dangerous. You must strengthen your voice. If you cannot express disagreement without fear, the relationship lacks safety. Safety allows honesty. Honesty allows growth. Without those, the connection remains shallow and fragile. Some of you are afraid that if you create distance, they will retaliate. They may talk about you. They may twist stories. They may attempt to damage your reputation. That fear keeps you trapped. But understand this. If someone is willing to destroy your name because you chose growth, they were never safe to begin with. Truth has endurance. Character has endurance. Do not stay in bondage to avoid temporary gossip. Your future is larger than their opinion. There is something else you must see clearly. Assignments from hell sometimes attach themselves to your weakness. If you struggle with people-pleasing, they will demand more. If you struggle with loneliness, they will offer constant presence but little depth. If you struggle with insecurity, they will give you attention without stability. The attachment feels like relief. But relief is not always healing. Temporary relief can hide long-term damage. You must stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do they align with who I am becoming?" Becoming requires sacrifice. You are not who you used to be. Your values are sharper now. Your standards are clearer now. Your vision is more defined now. And with clarity comes separation. Separation does not mean you hate them. It means you honor your growth. I want to speak to the part of you that still hopes they will change so you do not have to create distance. Yes, people can change. Yes, growth is possible. But change requires willingness. You cannot want maturity more than they do. You cannot drag someone into discipline. You cannot force alignment. You can inspire. You can model. But you cannot manufacture transformation. If the effort is one-sided for too long, it becomes unsustainable. Sustainability matters. Some of you are emotionally exhausted because you are trying to sustain what grace has already lifted from. When grace lifts, friction increases. When grace lifts, peace decreases. When grace lifts, confusion increases. That is your cue. Do not beg for what is naturally fading. Let it fade. Let it transition. Let it complete its season. Completion is not failure. It is fulfillment of purpose. That friendship may have taught you boundaries. It may have exposed insecurity. It may have strengthened discernment. It may have revealed your need for deeper roots. If it fulfilled its lesson, it does not need to remain permanent. You are evolving. And evolution will cost you old agreements. Some of you made silent agreements to tolerate things you no longer tolerate. You agreed to laugh at disrespect. You agreed to stay silent about discomfort. You agreed to show up even when drained. Revoke those agreements. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to say, "This no longer works for me." You are allowed to prioritize stability over history. You are allowed to protect your future. And let me say this gently but firmly. If you continue ignoring discernment, the consequences will teach you what wisdom tried to prevent. Learn through wisdom, not regret. You have already seen small signs. Small disappointments. Small betrayals. Small inconsistencies. Do not wait for a large collapse to take action. Prevention is better than repair. Repair costs more emotionally. Some of you have scars from past friendships that ended painfully. And because you fear repeating that pain, you tolerate unhealthy patterns now. You think, "At least this isn't as bad as before." But do not measure health by comparing it to trauma. Measure it by peace. Measure it by growth. Measure it by clarity. If those are absent, adjustment is necessary. You are stepping into a season where your circle must match your calling. Loose influence cannot carry heavy purpose. Weak alignment cannot sustain strong vision. I am strengthening your standards because your future requires stability. Do not feel guilty for elevating. Do not apologize for maturing. Do not explain your boundaries to those who benefit from breaking them. You are being refined. You are being prepared. And some relationships were only stepping stones, not permanent pillars. Let them be stepping stones. Step forward. Do not look back with longing. What is ahead of you requires sharper discernment and stronger boundaries. And I am walking you through this not to isolate you but to align you. Stay with me. Do not let emotion interrupt revelation. Some of you are still asking in your heart, "But how do I know for sure?" You want certainty. You want a sign so clear that you feel no doubt. But maturity does not always come with dramatic confirmation. Often, it comes with repeated conviction. Conviction that will not leave. Conviction that returns after every interaction. Conviction that whispers, "This is not right for you." That whisper is not fear. It is guidance. You must learn to trust the pattern more than the apology. Some friendships survive on apology cycles. They cross boundaries. They apologize. You forgive. Peace returns briefly. Then the pattern repeats. Apology without change is manipulation of your mercy. Mercy is sacred. Do not allow it to be exploited. You are not called to harden your heart, but you are called to guard it. Guarding means you observe. You evaluate. You do not rush access. Some of you gave full access too quickly. You shared your deepest struggles, your family issues, your private prayers, your dreams. And later you realized they did not handle that information with care. They joked about it. They repeated it. They minimized it. Access is earned, not assumed. The next season of your life requires discretion. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your transformation. Let me reveal something deeper. Assignments from hell often attach during vulnerable seasons. When you are heartbroken. When you are transitioning. When you are uncertain. When you feel misunderstood. They appear supportive. And in that moment you are grateful. But gratitude should not override discernment. Just because someone was there in a low season does not automatically mean they are qualified for your elevated season. Seasons reveal compatibility. When you begin to rise, compatibility shifts. Some people were comfortable when you were both confused. But when you gain clarity, they feel left behind. Instead of rising with you, they may attempt to anchor you. Anchors are useful for stability in the right place. But if you are meant to move forward, an anchor becomes a restraint. You are not meant to be restrained. Some of you have already started creating small distance, but you feel the tension building. They notice. They ask questions. They become suspicious. They accuse you of changing. Yes, you are changing. Growth requires change. If someone demands you remain the same for their comfort, they are attached to your past identity, not invested in your future self. Let me speak this clearly into your spirit. Anyone who resists your growth is not aligned with your destiny. Let that settle in you. Destiny requires support, not sabotage. Sabotage is not always obvious. It can be subtle discouragement. It can be planted doubt. It can be a simple statement like, "Are you sure you can handle that?" spoken repeatedly until you question yourself. Words shape belief. If someone constantly questions your capacity, your confidence will weaken. You must protect your confidence carefully. Confidence is not arrogance. It is agreement with the growth I am producing in you. Some of you have noticed that after spending time with certain friends, your motivation drops. Your discipline fades. Your focus weakens. That is influence. Influence is powerful because it transfers mindset. If you surround yourself with people who lack ambition, ambition feels unnecessary. If you surround yourself with people who mock responsibility, responsibility feels extreme. If you surround yourself with people who normalize compromise, integrity feels optional. Environment either fuels or frustrates purpose. You must choose fuel. There are friendships where you constantly feel like the mature one. You give advice. You provide stability. You calm drama. But who challenges you? Who sharpens you? Who corrects you when needed? Iron sharpens iron. Does not dull it. If you are always the one sharpening but never being sharpened, imbalance exists. Imbalance leads to exhaustion. Exhaustion leads to vulnerability. Vulnerability without wisdom leads to mistakes. You must stop volunteering for roles I did not assign to you. You are not the savior of your friend group. You are responsible for your obedience, not everyone's healing. Some of you have delayed major decisions because of certain friendships. You hesitated to move, hesitated to pursue opportunity, hesitated to change environments, not because you lacked desire, but because you feared disrupting connection. That hesitation may be the very delay keeping you from breakthrough. Breakthrough often requires relocation, not always physically but relationally. New levels require new alignment. You cannot keep dragging old conversations into new seasons. If your vision has expanded but your circle has not, tension is inevitable. And tension is not always meant to be resolved. Sometimes it is meant to be recognized as a signal that growth has separated paths. Some of you are still hoping the friendship will return to how it once felt. But you must accept this truth. Once awareness enters, you cannot return to ignorance. You have seen too much. You have sensed too much. You have matured too much. Forcing the old dynamic will only create internal conflict. Let the old version end with gratitude, not resentment. Say in your heart, "Thank you for what you taught me. But I am moving forward." Moving forward does not require hostility. It requires courage. Courage to endure loneliness temporarily. Courage to withstand misunderstanding. Courage to stand firm when guilt tries to pull you back. Guilt is powerful. It whispers, "You are abandoning them." But ask yourself honestly, were you growing or shrinking? If you were shrinking, that is not abandonment. That is rescue. Rescue yourself before resentment builds. Resentment grows when you stay too long in misalignment. You begin to feel irritated by small things. You begin to withdraw emotionally while remaining physically present. That silent frustration damages both of you. It is better to create healthy distance than to remain close with hidden resentment. Some of you fear being alone more than you fear being misaligned. But loneliness can build strength. Loneliness can deepen clarity. Loneliness can refine dependence on me instead of people. And when you are no longer desperate for connection, you choose better connections. Desperation attracts dysfunction. Wholeness attracts alignment. Let me say this again. Desperation attracts dysfunction. If you fear emptiness, you will fill space with whatever appears first. But if you trust my timing, you will wait for alignment. Waiting is not weakness. Waiting is wisdom. You are entering a season where fewer voices will speak into your life, but the voices that remain will be stronger. Quality over quantity. Alignment over popularity. Peace over pressure. Do not rush to replace what I remove. Sit in the space. Let me recalibrate your standards. Let me reset your expectations. Some of you tolerated chaos because you thought stability was boring. But stability is strength. Drama is draining. Choose strength. Choose steadiness. Choose calm alignment. You are not called to carry chaotic influence into your future. Your future requires clarity. And clarity sometimes comes through separation. Stay steady. Stay grounded. Stay obedient. I am guiding you through this carefully because the next level of your life cannot be built on unstable foundations. Stay here. Do not rush this moment. Some of you are beginning to feel a quiet confirmation deep inside your chest. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is steady. That steady knowing is wisdom settling in. You have tried to make excuses long enough. You told yourself, they don't mean it. They're just joking. They've always been like that. It's not that serious. But patterns are serious. When someone repeatedly dishonors your values, that is serious. When someone repeatedly pulls you into compromise, that is serious. When someone repeatedly drains your peace, that is serious. Peace is expensive. Do not give it away cheaply. There are friendships where the bond is built on shared secrets that were never healthy to begin with. You connected through rebellion, through hidden behavior, through things you would not proudly speak about in the light. That kind of bond feels intense because it is rooted in secrecy. But secrecy cannot sustain destiny. If your friendship survives only in darkness, in hidden conversations, hidden habits, hidden agreements, it cannot grow in the light. Light exposes. Light purifies. Light clarifies. And when light enters, some connections dissolve. That dissolution is not cruelty. It is cleansing. Some of you have felt conviction during certain conversations. You laughed outwardly, but inwardly you felt uncomfortable. You felt that nudge saying, "This is not who you are anymore." But you ignored it because you did not want to make it awkward. Stop sacrificing conviction to avoid awkwardness. Awkwardness is temporary. Compromise has consequences. You must become comfortable being the one who does not laugh, the one who does not agree, the one who says, "I'm not doing that," the one who leaves early, the one who declines the invitation. Strength is often quiet but firm. Some friendships are built on constant access. They expect immediate replies, immediate availability, immediate attention. And when you pull back, they react. Ask yourself, is that friendship or dependency? Dependency feels flattering at first. You feel needed. You feel important. But dependency can turn into control. And control suffocates growth. Healthy friendships allow space. They do not panic when you focus. They do not accuse when you build. They do not guilt trip when you rest. They understand seasons. Some of you are in a building season. Your discipline is increasing. Your focus is sharpening. Your priorities are shifting. But certain friends are still in a drifting season. They have no urgency, no direction, no hunger for change. Drift and direction cannot walk comfortably together for long. Eventually, one will influence the other. If you are not strong, drift will slow you down. And you cannot afford to slow down now. There are opportunities approaching you that require mental clarity, emotional stability, strong boundaries. You cannot carry chaos into doors that require composure. Imagine stepping into a new level of responsibility while still entangled in drama. It will divide your attention. It will dilute your effectiveness. Division weakens impact. You are called to impact. Some of you feel guilty because this friend once helped you. They supported you in a low season. They were there when others were not. And now you feel like you owe them permanent access. Gratitude does not require lifetime entanglement. You can appreciate their role without binding your future to their influence. Thank them internally. Bless them in prayer. But do not sacrifice alignment for history. History is powerful, but destiny is greater. There are friendships where subtle disrespect has become normal. They make comments about your faith. They question your discipline. They tease your boundaries. And you laugh along to keep peace. But every time you laugh at what dishonors your growth, you weaken your own standards. Standards must be reinforced, not mocked. If someone consistently belittles what you value, they are revealing their discomfort with your evolution. Evolution makes insecure people uneasy. Do not shrink to make insecurity comfortable. Some of you are afraid that if you distance yourself, you will be alone. But loneliness is often the bridge between misalignment and divine alignment. Bridges are temporary. You walk across them. You do not build a house on them. Loneliness is not your destination. It is your transition. In transition, I refine your identity. I teach you to enjoy your own growth. I teach you to stand firm without constant affirmation. When you become secure alone, you choose better company. Security attracts health. Insecurity tolerates dysfunction. Let me say something that may challenge you. Sometimes you are kept in certain friendships because you are still attached to the version of yourself that existed when it began. Let that version go. You are not that person anymore. Your dreams are bigger. Your standards are higher. Your awareness is sharper. If the friendship requires you to act like your old self, it cannot support your new self. And you must honor who you are becoming. Some of you have already outgrown the dynamic, but you are waiting for a dramatic reason to leave. You want a clear betrayal so you can justify your distance. But sometimes misalignment alone is enough. You do not need betrayal to create boundaries. You do not need scandal to adjust access. You do not need chaos to choose peace. Choosing peace is reason enough. Hear this clearly. If staying connected costs your clarity, the cost is too high. Let that settle deeply in you. Clarity determines direction. Direction determines outcome. Outcome determines legacy. You are building a legacy. Legacy cannot be built on unstable friendships. I'm not asking you to become isolated. I'm asking you to become intentional. Intentional about who shapes your thoughts. Intentional about who speaks into your decisions. Intentional about who has influence over your emotions. Influence is sacred, and not everyone qualifies. Some of you are holding on to friendships that ended spiritually long ago. You are maintaining contact out of habit. But there is no depth anymore. No growth. No alignment. Habit is not assignment. Release what has already ended in spirit. There are people ahead of you who will match your hunger, who will match your discipline, who will match your desire for integrity. But you must create space. If your schedule is filled with draining connections, you will not recognize healthy ones when they appear. Make room. Clear space. Elevate standards. And when guilt tries to creep in, remind yourself, growth is not betrayal. Growth is obedience. You are not abandoning people. You are aligning with purpose. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming wise. You are not judging. You are discerning. Stand firm. Choose carefully. Move forward peacefully. And trust that what I remove, I replace with something stronger.